Assalamu alaikum students. Hope you are all doing fine and hope you are taking these voiceover lectures. They are important for your syllabus coverage. And if you guys have any questions regarding them, you can message me on WhatsApp at any time you want. At any time, at your convenience, I will reply to you whatever your question will be. So the chapter number 6 and the last chapter in our history syllabus is about the ancient Greek Empire. So how we are going to read about where was it located and how did it form, what united the Greek Empire and what divided it, what is its legacy and all that. So the Greek Empire is currently the country of Greece and Turkey. They actually have a sea between them. It's called Aegean Sea. The Greek Empire is actually located around this Aegean Sea. It was not really a uniform empire. In fact, it was actually a confederation of multiple Greek city-states, and one of its main rivals was the Persian Empire that we actually studied in our earlier chapter. In fact, it was one of the first naval empire, or the one that was sea-based. It also had a lot of colonies across the Mediterranean Sea as well. Their daily life and customs of the Greeks were very much like their daily lives and the individuals right now. They did their chores, they did their daily chores. They like to spend time with the other people. They used to go the market, they used to go bazaars, and the richer households had many servants and other things. Agora was the marketplace where everybody could go and purchase things, and they like to engage in yearly activities like attending plays and religious festivals or intellectual discussions. There was some uniformity while Greek city states used to rule themselves. There was not a single unifying authority. Well, it actually grew later, but that's actually because of the conquest of other city states. So, what united them was actually the trade. Greeks actually dominated the trade along with the Phoenicians in Mediterranean Sea. It was one of the most dominant trading power in the Mediterranean Sea, and they used to trade with Egypt around the coast of Black Sea and across most of the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The Greek language in the 8th century BC actually adopted Phoenician alphabets. Phoenicians were, as I told you, were the people that, along with the Greeks, dominated the sea trade, and uh, it was developed. They wrote with Phoenician alphabets, and they shared the language among them. Their religion was a sort of a pantheism, like there were multiple gods that they used to worship, and many of their gods had similarities with the Vedic gods or the Hindu gods, and they believed that all these gods lived on the Mount Olympia in Greece, or Mount Olympus in Greece. It's a mountain. It is still visible in Greece, and that is where they thought that their gods used to live. Literature, culture, and sports. These were all very important to them. In fact, they were the first ones to start the Olympic Games. They are actually named after Mount Olympus, or Olympia is also a city state in Greece as well. There are many writers in Greek literature that actually wrote very famous books. Among them are Sophocles and Aristophanes. In fact, even more popular than them is actually Homer. Homer is a poet that wrote Iliad and Odyssey. Both of these poems are actually war epics. A war epic is a poem that actually, or any story that actually details the uh, that actually writes the details of a particular war. And in this case, they actually wrote about the uh, war of all of the Greek cities against Troy. Troy was a city that was located at the coast of Turkey, or at that time that coast was known as Ionia. And Yes, there was also another very famous philosopher, Socrates. He was again not very popular among the population, but his students used to revere him in great honor. So, another thing was the Olympic Games, as I've already told you before. Another thing was that they were very fond of prophecies. And as we studied during our chapter on ancient China, they also were very keen to know about the future. They wanted to make very a lot of prophecies. So what they would do is there was a temple at Delphi, and there was a oracle at there. The oracle, it was a particular, a priestess, and what would it do? It would actually interpret the will of Apollo. Apollo was the sun god in Greek mythology. So people would go there, ask her some questions, and she would respond in some manner. And that's how they used to, get uh, prophecies about the future. And I have already told you about Olympic Games. They were held every 4 years, and each Greek city state would observe a truce. What does that mean? That during the time of Olympic Games, there will be no wars among Greek city states. And that is how important the Olympic Games were to the ancient Greeks. Greek culture was also obsessed with science and mathematics. In fact, the Archimedes and Pythagoras and Euclid. Pythagoras is known for the Pythagoras theorem. Archimedes is known for a measurement of a lot of things, and Euclid is also used in geometry. All of these important scholars actually were very influential in many mathematical discoveries. Furthermore, they actually developed a lot of engineering tools that we still use today. And many Greeks also made strides in medical field as well. Why? Because they were very keen to learn about the earth and everything around it, everything that is included in. In fact, they were actually very keen on learning about sciences. They had some presuppositions that proved to be wrong later, that they believed that the world has only four elements like wind, fire, air, and water. But we now know that it is everything is made up of atoms. And again, most of their knowledge was preserved by the Romans and subsequently by the Muslims. I have already told you that they actually had a lot of colonies. If you look at this page, then there is a map that shows the Greece, where the Greek Empire or the Greek city states were actually located, and it also shows where Greek colonies were also located. As you know, a colony is when you go to some place that is not actually yours, but you start to settle over there. So they actually had a lot of colonies in the Mediterranean Sea as well. They used it to trade with these colonies and other far off areas. So these are the things that united them. So what actually divided these ancient Greeks? The geography and size of settlement. Greece is a mountainous city, and many of these city states, they were isolated by mountains and by the sea. And as you I can also see, there are a lot of islands in the Aegean Sea as well. Uh, that is why these cities were actually, while they were very close to each other, they spoke the same language, they trade with each other, but their cities were actually very divided among each other, due to not only political issues but also because of geographical issues as well. Furthermore, there were more than 300 city states, and each city state had their own form of government. Some were more democratic, some were more, you can say, uh, some were more authoritarian, some had two kings, some had one king. One of these city states were Sparta. Sparta is very well known because of the uh, great valor that is recorded about them. Valor means courage. They used to be very courageous. So in their system of government, they actually had two kings. They would each provide check and balance for each other. and they would answer to a council of elders, and only male members of the Spartan society were part of that council. Furthermore, every free Spartan man was supposed to uh, participate and train with the army, within their army ranks. That was very sacred to them, and most of the daily chores was done by the helots. Helots were the uh, slaves of Spartans. Then another city state was the Athens. Now Athens had a more democratic system of government where all free male citizens had the right to vote. It was not like the democracy is right now, because in that democracy only males could vote and only free citizens could vote. Now most of the population in Athens was actually slave. So it meant that more than half of the population could not even vote in any manner. So it was not exactly like the democracy of today, and only males could vote. They could actually elect a soldier, and or they could actually elect a leader for themselves, and through an assembly, through a vote through assembly, and they could actually seize or remove that particular leader through the vote of assembly as well. And while this all this actually gave freedom to all male citizens of Greece, it actually did not provide freedom to women or slaves as much as the free male citizens. So both of these were rival cities, Sparta and Athens. They were both rivals of each other. So there is you know era in Greek history that is known as Peloponnesian War. It started after 480 BCE, when they actually defeated the Persian Empire at Battle of Salamis and Battle of Marathon. So after that, two big cities emerged. One was Sparta and the other was Athens. They both created a lot of alliances and created their rival empires. In fact, in the image, in the picture on this chapter, you can actually see that in purple, Athens and its allies are located, while in the green, Spartans and their allies are shown. This Peloponnesian War eventually ended with the Spartan victory in 431 BCE. So Sparta actually won the Peloponnesian War. Greeks were also very big about the philosophy as well. They were, you can say, great philosophers as well. There were actually three dominant types of philosophies in ancient Greece. The one was Epicureans. These were the ones that the best way to live life is to avoid suffering and follow pleasurable pursuits. The Stoics actually believed that the individual morality is the most important thing of all. And there was also Plato, or Aflatun as we call him in Urdu. He used to believe that democracy is not very good, and actually devise a system where the philosophers will rule the city. So, a very important figure of the Greek literature or Greek Empire is Socrates, or as Sakrat as we know him in Urdu. So, his teachings are actually very not only very well known, but are very important in the Greek when we study about the Greeks. Why? Because it gives us a very rare and very deep insight into the Greek society. While he actually believed that the power of human reasoning to solve problems is supreme and does not require the intervention of Greek gods, this was a very dominant thought, which is why he was actually tried for it. He actually also disliked democracy too. He was very vocal about the ruling class of the Athens and the ruling form of the Athens. So what they did, they actually held a trial against him. So while Athens actually prided itself in providing freedom to its male citizens, the trial of Socrates is a very grave exception. So what they did, they actually a jury was formed. A jury is a group of individuals that were assigned to judge a particular person. So what would they do? They were actually not allowed to even hear about the perspective of Socrates. He was not allowed to speak, and the jury also did not could not deliberate among themselves. They were only allowed to vote without hearing anything about the trial. So on one thing there was on one side was a guilty verdict, on other side there was not guilty, and nearly all of them actually gave the guilty verdict to that particular individuals that particular individual, that was Socrates. So this trial is actually a question mark on the freedom of democracy, and still serves as the deeper insight into the Greek culture as a whole. And one of his disciples were the Aristotle. Now, while the very reason that the Greece is so important, or the learning of ancient Greece is so important, is because at one time Alexander the Great of Macedon actually conquered, like not only the Persian Empire but also most of the known world at that time. So how did that came to be? So after the Peloponnesian War, what happened was the Macedon was an Greek-speaking city at the very north. So what it did, it actually conquered most of Greece. It actually conquered Sparta and Athens, both Sparta and Athens. This was actually done by the king Philip II of Macedon. He had a son that was known as Alexander, or Alexander the First, and he actually appointed a Greek teacher for a Greek tutor for his son. That the name of that particular teacher was Aristotle, or Arastu as we know him in Urdu. So Aristotle was actually a philosophical descendant of Socrates himself. In fact, he was the student of Plato. Plato himself was the student of Socrates. So now you understand why Socrates is so important in Greece, or the Greek studies. So Aristotle had some excuse me. Aristotle had some views of his own, and he actually imparted them to the young prince Alexander. So he disliked democracy. He considered women to be inferior to men, and he actually taught geography to Alexander and showed him how vast the world is and how he could conquer all of it. So what happens is, at the age of 20, he became king after the death of his father, King Philip. He was already in control of most of the Greece, and so what he did was he actually took most of the Greek army and fought with the Persian Empire. And at that time, Persia was ruled by Darius the Third. And from previous lecture, you will realize that at that time the Persian Empire was very weak. So with an army of only 35,000 troops, Alexander actually defeated most of the Persian army. First, he took the control of Mediterranean Sea, then he took Egypt, and then he defeated the last army of Darius the Third, and he actually seized all of the gold of the Persian Empire, or their treasury as well. And after that, he actually went to conquer the Indian subcontinent, and this actually became problematic. So when he went to the Indus Valley, or when he went to the Indian subcontinent, he actually demanded the submission of all of its kingdoms. Some of these kingdoms, like Taxila, actually submitted to the rule of uh, Alexander. But there was one king at the confluence of Hydaspes River. At that time, it was known to the Greeks as Hydaspes River, but to us it is known as Jhelum River. There they met Purushtama. Purushtama was known in Greece as Porus. So they actually fought, the Greek or the Macedonians actually fought with the Purushtama, and the Greeks forces claim that Alexander the actually won, and let the Porus keep his kingdom in his name, and returned back. But all these accounts actually suggest that it was Purushtama or Porus that actually won the war, and forced Alexander to return to the uh, Persian his Persian capital of Babylon. So that is why while he wanted to go east, he could not, because according to Greek sources, his men did not allow it even after defeating Porus. But the facts of history suggest that he was not able to do so because he got defeated in the war. But even though he could not conquer most of South Asia, he actually left a lot of legacy behind. So he actually left a lot of city states. These city states later built great empires. In fact, one of the Greek Indo-Greek kings was the Menander the First, and he had his capital at uh, Sialkot, the today's city of Sialkot. In fact, the Indo-Bactrian kingdom or the Indo-Greek kingdom actually endured for a lot of time, and Greek influence remained in the subcontinent for a while. In fact, the Kushan Empire, that was actually a Vedic empire, actually used the Greek language as its dominant or the lingua franca of that particular area. So that's the impact of Greeks on the South Asia.